What unfolds when a chart-topping country icon steps onto hostile ground and faces off against television's sharpest tongue in a clash nobody expected? When Nashville's most recognized voice meets daytime TV's most polarizing personality, the result isn't your typical celebrity chat. It transforms into something far more explosive. A confrontation where Southern charm collides with coastal commentary, where carefully rehearsed pleasantries dissolve into unfiltered truth-telling that shook the entertainment industry to its core. This recounts the moment Blake Shelton entered The View's studio and delivered responses that silenced Joy Behar, fractured the production's rhythm, and forced millions watching at home to choose allegiances in a cultural divide years in the making. Before we dive into this incredible story, please hit that subscribe button and tell us in comments what you really think caused Blake Shelton to completely lose it on live television. What happened wasn't mere celebrity drama or tabloid fodder. This represented a watershed instant when pretense evaporated, when industry gloss surrendered to authentic confrontation, and when an Oklahoma native reminded Hollywood's gatekeepers precisely who commanded his loyalty and which compromises he'd never make. That particular morning began identically to countless View episodes before it. Stage illumination flooded the recognizable platform. Spectators claimed their positions with palpable excitement, while crew members executed their choreographed preparations. Blake Shelton arrived as featured talent, scheduled to highlight his newest record and preview his North American concert schedule. Standard expectations included gentle inquiries, reciprocal humor, perhaps promotional mentions of The Voice, routine publicity material for someone synonymous with contemporary country music. Blake made his entrance radiating characteristic self-assurance, that unmistakable Ada, Oklahoma magnetism evident in every movement. He acknowledged the applauding crowd with his signature hat gesture, displayed that camera-ready grin recognizable from countless publications, and occupied the guest position with the comfortable bearing of someone thoroughly experienced in media appearances. The audience reciprocated enthusiastically, their response authentic and warm. Here sat Blake Shelton, voice mentor, platinum-selling performer, cherished American entertainment personality. What circumstances could possibly deteriorate? The remaining panel members offered cordial greetings. Whoopi Goldberg extended her characteristic professional acknowledgement. Sarah Haynes beamed brightly, visibly thrilled about their musical visitor. Even Sonny Hostin appeared genuinely delighted by his attendance. Everything progressed precisely as Blake's publicity team had guaranteed. Welcoming, superficial, promotional. Uncomplicated morning broadcast fare. Yet Joy Behar remained curiously reserved during those introductory exchanges, a calculating expression playing across her features. Anyone familiar with The View's patterns recognized that particular demeanor. It signaled ammunition being chambered, patience awaiting the optimal striking moment. Longtime viewers understood what approached, even if Blake himself remained oblivious to the trap being constructed. Initial conversation minutes flowed effortlessly. Discussion covered the fresh album, commentary regarding his voice responsibilities, agreeable exchanges about Nashville existence. Blake addressed each inquiry with rehearsed facility, his Oklahoma inflection, lending genuine appeal to every statement. The audience responded to his humor. Co-hosts nodded appreciatively. Throughout those fleeting golden moments, circumstances suggested merely another triumphant celebrity engagement. Blake remained unaware the studio's atmosphere was about to undergo Arctic transformation. Well, Joy eventually interjected, her tone slicing through the pleasant environment like sharpened steel through fabric. Look whose presence we're graced with today. She inclined forward marginally, that cutting smile expanding. Blake Shelton, small-town America's spokesman. Or perhaps I should specify, spokesman for a particularly narrow segment of small-town America. Blake's grin never faltered, though something transformed behind his eyes. A subtle constriction, a careful recalibration. "Good morning yourself, Joy," he responded, maintaining friendliness but introducing cautionary undertones. "Always appreciate being here with you distinguished ladies." "Oh, spare us the charisma campaign, Blake," Joy countered, dismissing with a hand wave. She leaned inward now, fully committed, her entire physicality transitioning from passive spectator to aggressive interrogator. "Let's address your recent statements regarding Heartland principles. You apparently believe residing in modest communities automatically confers superior morality, enhanced patriotism compared to us metropolitan residents." Co-hosts exchanged meaningful glances. The audience, so animated moments earlier, descended into uncomfortable quietude. Whoopi Goldberg, eternally the professional mediator, attempted gentle course correction. "Joy, perhaps we could..." But Joy was merely beginning. "I never claimed that, Joy," Blake replied, his Oklahoma cadence becoming more pronounced, a tell that anyone from his background would immediately recognize. "What I expressed was that smaller communities instill particular principles, neighborly bonds, mutual assistance, earning rewards through effort. I never suggested superiority over anyone." "Oh, please," Joy gestured dismissively again, her voice saturated with contempt. "That's precisely your implication. You country performers love portraying yourselves as authentic Americans, while everyone else becomes what exactly? Counterfeit Americans? We possess equal American legitimacy, Blake." Blake's jaw tightened imperceptibly. His hands, previously resting casually on armrests, pressed downward with slightly increased pressure, but he maintained composure, preserved that professional exterior. "Joy, I believe you're attributing statements I never made. I respect individuals from every background, whether they're from Manhattan or a township with 3,000 inhabitants." "Do you, though?" Joy pressed forward, her voice elevating slightly, gathering momentum like storms building on horizons. "Because your music, your entire image, it's constructed on this notion that genuine America exists somewhere out there in the countryside, and locations like New York, places like my upbringing, somehow don't qualify." The studio atmosphere thickened with tension, almost tangible. The audience maintained dead silence now, sensing they witnessed something transcending typical daytime television content. Camera operators glanced nervously at colleagues. Within the control room, producers frantically signaled, uncertain whether to allow this continuation or transition to commercial break. Sarah Haynes attempted interjecting with a music-related question, desperately trying to navigate conversation toward safer territory. But Joy wasn't finished. Not remotely. "You know what troubles me most about this entire small-town supremacy mindset?" Joy continued, her hands gesturing emphatically, her complete being now laser-focused on Blake like targeting systems locking onto objectives. "It's that you get to sit there passing judgment on everyone else while accumulating millions singing about pickup trucks and country roads. You've resided in Hollywood and Nashville for decades, Blake. When did you actually last live in these small towns you constantly romanticize?" Blake's relaxed demeanor began shifting. His shoulders straightened. His spine grew more rigid. For the first time since sitting, he appeared genuinely irritated. Not merely defensive, but personally insulted. The easygoing country performer was starting to fracture, and something harder, something more formidable, was beginning to emerge. "Joy," Blake stated, his voice controlled but with underlying steel. "I may currently live in Nashville, but I haven't abandoned my origins. I was raised in Ada, Oklahoma. Population 12,000. My father worked construction. My mother owned a beauty salon. I understand growing up where everyone knows everyone." "And now you're worth hundreds of millions," Joy retaliated without hesitation, her voice rising with each syllable. "You've got estates across multiple states, private aircraft, the complete package. Don't you find it somewhat disingenuous continuing this everyman performance?" Blake's famous grin, that effortless, disarming expression that had charmed America for decades, finally cracked. Shattered, actually. "You know something, Joy?" His voice had transformed entirely now. Gone was the promotional tour courtesy. This was something raw, something genuine. Just because someone achieves success doesn't erase their foundation. I've been fortunate, absolutely. But that doesn't alter who I am or my background, and I'm proud of my background. "Proud enough to commercialize it," Joy retorted, leaning backward slightly, clearly savoring the reaction she provoked. Her eyes brightened with pursuit's thrill. "Your entire brand is constructed on this fantasy of simple, rural folks versus sophisticated urban people. It's divisive, Blake, and frankly, it's tiresome." The studio tension was now palpable, electric, crackling. Every person in that space could feel it, the point of no return approaching rapidly. Whoopi tried once more, steering conversation elsewhere, her voice carrying warning notes. "Maybe we should discuss the tour." But Blake had lost interest in playing cordial. "Commercialize it," Blake repeated, his voice rising initially, genuine anger bleeding through his professional facade. "Joy, I write and perform about my existence, my journey, the people who shaped me. That's not commercialization. That's authenticity. And if you cannot distinguish the difference, perhaps that reveals more about you than about me." The studio gasped audibly, a collective breath intake. Even cameramen froze momentarily. This wasn't banter anymore. This wasn't friendly disagreement. This was full-scale confrontation. And Blake Shelton had just returned fire with complete force. Joy's eyes flashed with pure fury. Her face flushed noticeably. Her hands gripped the desk before her. "Authenticity," she practically spat the term. "Give me a break, Blake. You're about as authentic as counterfeit currency. You're a manufactured product, identical to every other country star the Nashville industry produces." The audience gasped again, louder this time. Even co-hosts looked uncomfortable now, shifting in seats, exchanging worried glances. This had transcended typical daytime television banter. The boundaries of professional discourse had been obliterated, and they were hurtling into territory nobody had anticipated. Blake stood up slowly. It was a power move. Calculated or instinctive didn't matter. The effect was identical. At 6'5", Blake Shelton towered over the panel, his frame suddenly seeming larger, more imposing, more commanding than anyone in that studio had expected. The cowboy had risen, and the entire confrontation dynamic shifted in that single movement. "You know something, Joy?" His voice was measured now, controlled, but carrying an undercurrent of ice-cold fury. "I've sat here and absorbed your attacks because I respect this program, and I respect most people on it. But I'm not going to sit here permitting you to assault my character and my integrity." "Oh, did I strike a nerve?" Joy taunted, standing as well, clearly unwilling to surrender the physical advantage. Her voice dripped with sarcasm. The truth stings, doesn't it, Blake? The truth? Blake's voice was steady, now dangerously calm. The truth is that you've been sitting behind this desk for years, launching attacks at people, tearing them down, making cruel comments about anyone who doesn't share your worldview. And you label that entertainment? Joy's face flushed deep crimson. I call it honesty, she shot back. Something you might want to attempt sometime. Blake shook his head slowly, a gesture of profound disappointment, more cutting than any words. Honesty would be admitting that you'd already formed your opinion about me before I even entered here. You don't want conversation, Joy. You want to provoke conflict. Maybe I do, Joy replied defiantly, her chin raised, her stance aggressive. Maybe it's time someone challenged your performance. The studio was electric with tension now. Every eye was locked on the confrontation. Cameras kept rolling, capturing every word, every gesture, every micro-expression. The producers had abandoned trying to control the situation. This was live television gold, controversial and explosive, the kind of moment that would dominate news cycles for weeks. Blake looked down at Joy with a mixture of disappointment and anger, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper that somehow carried more weight than any shout. You want to challenge me? Fine. Let's do this properly. Then he paused, letting the moment stretch, building the tension. You sit there daily, criticizing people you've never encountered, places you've never visited, experiences you've never had. You discuss small towns like they're some kind of joke, like the people inhabiting them are beneath you. Joy leaned back in her chair, arms crossed defensively, but her voice remained combative. I never said they were beneath me. I said your portrayal of them is fabricated. My portrayal? Blake's voice grew louder, losing that careful control. I didn't learn about it in textbooks or watch it on television, Joy. I lived it. I lived in a place where when your neighbor's barn burned down, 20 families appeared the next day to help rebuild it. Where when someone got sick, the whole community rallied around them. That's not fabrication. That's real life. Oh, spare me the nostalgic painting, Joy interrupted, her voice sharp and cutting. Small towns have problems too, Blake. They have poverty, addiction, narrow-mindedness. But you never sing about that, do you? You only sing about the picturesque parts. Blake's hands clenched into fists at his sides, his knuckles going white. You think I don't know about the difficult parts? My hometown has struggled with factory shutdowns, young people departing because opportunities are scarce. I've witnessed families lose everything. But you know something? Those same struggling people still look out for each other. They still have dignity. They still have heart. And they still vote for politicians who keep them struggling. Joy shot back, her voice rising to match his intensity. But I suppose that's not something you want to discuss either, is it? The other hosts were frantically trying to signal for a commercial break, waving hands, making cutting gestures across throats. But the confrontation had taken on independent life, a runaway train that nobody could stop. There it is, Blake said, his voice quiet now, but somehow more dangerous for it. There's the real agenda. This was never about my music or my authenticity. This is about politics. This is about the fact that you can't tolerate that there are millions of Americans who don't think like you, who don't vote like you, who don't share your vision of what America should be. Those millions of Americans are being manipulated, Joy countered, her voice sharp and accusatory. By you, by the media, by politicians who tell them what they want to hear instead of what they need to know. Blake took a step closer to the panel, his voice rising with genuine passion. Who decides that, Joy? Who decides what people need to know? You, the media, politicians, or maybe, just maybe, people are smart enough to decide for themselves. Joy slammed her hand on the table, the sound echoing through the studio like a gunshot. Not when they're being manipulated by celebrity millionaires who pretend to be just like them. Blake stood perfectly still for a long moment, staring at Joy with an expression impossible to read. The studio held its collective breath. Then, slowly, deliberately, he reached up and took off his cowboy hat, an action loaded with symbolism that everyone in that room understood. "You know something, Joy?" His voice was eerily calm now, the eye of the hurricane. "You're absolutely right about one thing. I am a millionaire. I do live a different life now than I did growing up." He placed his hat on the table in front of him with deliberate precision, the gesture carrying more weight than any shout could have. "But there's one thing you're dead wrong about." His eyes locked onto Joy's with laser intensity. "I've never pretended to be anything other than exactly who I am. I've never lied about my success. I've never hidden my wealth. I've never claimed to be something I'm not." He paused, letting the question hang in the air like a blade. "Can you say the same?" Joy's face went pale. The color drained from her cheeks as if Blake had physically struck her. "What's that supposed to mean?" Her voice was smaller now, uncertain for the first time. Blake's smile was cold as ice, devoid of any warmth or humor. "It means maybe before you start lecturing other people about authenticity, you should take a long, hard look in the mirror." The studio fell into an uncomfortable silence. No one moved, no one breathed. Even the camera operators seemed frozen, uncertain whether to keep filming or look away from what was happening. Joy's face cycled through several emotions: shock, confusion, anger, and finally settling on pure, undiluted rage. "How dare you?" she whispered, her voice trembling with fury. "How dare you come onto my show and attack me personally?" Blake picked up his hat and placed it back on his head with slow, deliberate movements, each gesture carrying symbolic weight. "Joy, this is The View, not the Joy Behar Show. And I'm not attacking you personally. I'm responding to your personal attacks on me. You think you're so clever, don't you?" Joy's voice was getting louder again, shriller, losing the controlled venom from earlier. "Coming in here with your folksy wisdom and your country routine. Well, let me tell you something, cowboy. I've been in this business longer than you've been wearing that ridiculous hat." Blake's eyebrows raised slightly, a hint of genuine amusement crossing his face. "This business? You mean the business of entertainment? Because last I checked, we're both entertainers, Joy. The only difference is I don't pretend my entertainment is more important than anyone else's." "My entertainment?" Joy stood up straighter, her voice reaching a crescendo. "I inform people, Blake. I educate them. I help them understand the world around them. What do? You help them escape from reality." "And what's wrong with that?" Blake asked, his voice calm in stark contrast to Joy's escalating volume. The juxtaposition made his words cut even deeper. "What's wrong with giving people a few minutes of happiness? What's wrong with helping them forget their troubles for a little while?" Joy laughed bitterly, the sound harsh and ugly. "Because while they're forgetting their troubles, those troubles are getting worse. While they're listening to your songs about simpler times, the world is passing them by." Blake shook his head slowly, disappointment etched into every line of his face. "Joy, you talk about informing people and educating them, but all I've seen today is you trying to tear me down. Is that what you call education? Is that what you call helping people understand the world?" "I'm helping them understand that people like you are selling them a fantasy," Joy shot back. her composure completely gone now. A fantasy that keeps them from demanding the real changes they need. And what changes are those, Joy? Blake's voice had an edge to it now, sharp and cutting. What exactly do you think I'm keeping people from demanding? Joy gestured wildly with her hands, her entire body language screaming frustration and anger. Better jobs, better health care, better education for their children. Instead of fighting for those things, they're content to live in your make-believe world where everything is simple and pure and good. Blake was quiet for a long moment, studying Joy's face with an intensity that seemed to see right through her. When he spoke, his voice was softer, but somehow more dangerous, a whisper that cut deeper than any shout. You know what I think, Joy? I think you're angry because people find comfort in things that don't come from you. I think you're angry because despite all your lecturing and educating and informing, people still choose to listen to simple songs about simple pleasures. Joy's face turned bright red, her hands shaking slightly. That's not what this is about. Isn't it, though? Blake pressed on, taking another step forward, his presence filling the space. You can't stand that people find joy in things you don't understand, things you don't control. You can't stand that someone like me, someone you think is beneath you intellectually, can connect with people in ways you never could. You don't connect with people, Joy practically screamed. You manipulate them. You feed them lies about how great things used to be so they won't notice how bad things are now. Blake's laugh was harsh, bitter. Nothing like his usual warm chuckle. Joy, I've never once said things used to be better. I've never said people should go backward. I sing about appreciating what you have, about finding happiness in your family, your friends, your community. If that's manipulation, then I guess I'm guilty. You are guilty, Joy said, her voice breaking slightly. Tears of frustration threatening to spill. You're guilty of keeping people satisfied with less than they deserve. Blake stared at her for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. Not pity exactly, but a kind of sad understanding. Then slowly he began walking toward the edge of the set. You know something, Joy? His voice was tired now, worn down by the confrontation. I came here today to talk about my music, to have a conversation with you and your colleagues. But clearly you had a different agenda. Where are you going? Joy demanded, her voice becoming shrill with panic at losing control of the situation. We're not finished here. Blake stopped and turned back to face her, his expression unreadable. Yes, we are. Because there's no point in continuing this conversation. You've made it clear that you don't want to discuss anything. You want to attack everything. Joy's voice became desperate, grasping. I want to discuss the truth, Blake. I want to discuss your responsibility as a public figure. My responsibility? Blake's voice was incredulous. Joy, my responsibility is to my fans, to the people who buy my music and come to my shows. My responsibility is to be honest about who I am and what I believe. I don't owe you or anyone else an apology for that. You owe it to the American people to stop feeding them this small-town mythology, Joy shouted, her composure completely shattered now. You owe it to them to stop pretending that ignorance is bliss. Blake's face went stone cold. Every muscle in his jaw tightened. His eyes turned hard as steel. And there it is, he said, his voice dangerously quiet. You just called millions of Americans ignorant. You just called people who live in small towns, people who work hard and raise their families and try to do right by their neighbors. You just called them ignorant. I didn't say that, Joy protested, but her voice lacked conviction. the words weak and uncertain. "Yes, you did," Blake said firmly, pointing directly at her. "You just said it. And you know what? That tells me everything I need to know about you and your version of education and information." The other hosts sat frozen, their faces masks of shock and discomfort. Whoopi had given up trying to intervene. Sarah looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. The entire studio had become a powder keg, and Blake Shelton was walking away while it detonated behind him. "Just walk away," Joy called out as Blake continued toward the exit, her voice cracking with emotion. "You can't just run away when someone challenges your beliefs." Blake stopped one final time. He turned back to the panel, his cowboy hat shadowing his eyes, his stance wide and solid. "Joy, you haven't challenged my beliefs. You've insulted me. You've insulted my fans, and you've insulted millions of Americans who don't happen to share your worldview. That's not a challenge. That's just mean-spirited." "The truth is mean-spirited sometimes," Joy replied defiantly, lifting her chin in one last show of defiance. Blake nodded slowly as if accepting that statement. "You're right about that. And the truth is this show used to be about different perspectives having a conversation. Now it's apparently about one perspective shouting down all the others." With that devastating final observation, Blake Shelton turned and walked off the view set, his boots echoing in the stunned silence. The studio audience sat frozen, mouths agape, unable to process what they'd just witnessed. Behind the panel, Joy Behar stood alone, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped the desk for support. The cameras continued rolling, capturing every moment of her humiliation, every second of the aftermath of what would become one of the most talked-about confrontations in daytime television history. Security personnel moved quickly, but unnecessarily. Blake wasn't causing a scene. He was simply leaving. Producers scrambled frantically, trying to figure out how to salvage the rest of the show. The control room erupted in controlled chaos, voices overlapping, everyone talking at once about what had just happened and what it meant for the show, for the network, for everyone involved. The heated exchange had lasted less than 20 minutes from start to finish, but those 20 minutes would be replayed, analyzed, debated, and discussed for years to come. Clips would go viral within hours. Social media would explode with reactions. News organizations would cover it as a major story. And America would be divided once again. Not just about politics or geography or values, but about who was right in that studio confrontation and what it revealed about the deeper fractures in American society. What started as a routine promotional appearance became a cultural flashpoint, a moment when the carefully maintained illusions of polite entertainment were stripped away and replaced with raw, unfiltered confrontation. Blake Shelton walked into that studio as a country music star there to sell an album. He walked out as something else entirely, a symbol of defiance against coastal elitism, a representation of millions of Americans who felt constantly judged and dismissed by the entertainment establishment. And Joy Behar, who had started the day thinking she would expose a hypocrite, ended it having revealed something about herself that no amount of spin could entirely erase. Was Blake right to walk off? Did Joy cross a line that should never have been crossed? Did the confrontation reveal fundamental truths about American society? Or was it just another manufactured controversy in the endless cycle of outrage content? The answers depend entirely on who you ask, where they're from, and what they believe about the America we live in versus the America we imagine ourselves to be. If you found this story compelling, hit that like button and let us know at Briefing Bureau what you think happened in that studio. Was this a justified walkout or an overreaction? The debate continues.